Thanks for joining us for today's episode of The Capitalist Investor. You got Mark, whatever my name is, Iceman. I think I changed it.
You did change it, and I forgot it already.
Cobra Kai?
Yeah. Johnny
Lawrence?
Johnny Lawrence.
Something like that. You got Diamond Hands D, Cool Hand Luke.
All that matters is we're over laryngitis now, I think.
My voice is... I kind of talked through it, so there's some long-lasting damage to these vocal cords for me.
Are you sure that wasn't COVID, man?
Yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah, right.
I didn't get sick after last week, so that was good.
That's like the first time in a long time that it hasn't just gone through the entire office like a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
So knock on wood.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so we got some interesting things to talk about today. Big things happening with Peloton. They've been in the news a lot lately. There was EVs overall, electric vehicles have been in the news, whether it's Elon and his tweets, which I think are just absolutely hilarious. Or
amazing.
Rivian's IPO, which it's been absolutely insane. I mean, it actually surpassed the market cap of both GM and Ford. And Luke, as you mentioned to me earlier today, it was kind of close to really being the same market cap as both of those companies combined. Yeah. I mean, that's how close it was.
Yeah. It was like the third largest car maker, and they don't make cars.
Yeah.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, haven't made one yet. All right, so let's start off with Peloton. The story with Peloton, as most people know, is it was kind of the stay-at-home trade, work from home, and then we kind of transitioned to the whole workout from home trade, right? I remember like during the pandemic, Doug was trying to, because he was a guy who had a gym membership, he was trying to find like dumbbells and like you couldn't find anything. Right. You couldn't find any equipment. Right. Peloton kept making those bikes though, right? So they continued to meet the demand for their bikes. After that, the stock was beloved by Wall Street, right? Everyone loved it. Then they had the issue with the Tread Plus. Mm-hmm. That was the really awesome treadmill. I used it before. I loved it. It was so much easier on my knees with like all the give and the rubber built in. But it had the slats, and I think it may have killed a kid or a dog or something. Mm-hmm. So they had a big issue with that. They had to recall all of those. Actually, like a week before I was supposed to get mine delivered. And then recently, it looks like they're slowing demand for their bikes, and stock has sold off pretty drastically, and now all of a sudden they want to do a stock offering. So I went through the whole relevant history of Peloton there. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I'll tell you what, those home workouts don't do the same justice, for me at least, than those gym workouts, because I put on 20 pounds doing home workouts.
We can tell, Luke.
I know, man. So I joined a gym membership, but
where'd you join?
The YMCA.
Weak.
I know.
Dude, we own Planet Fitness. You got to support our holdings, dude.
5 minutes away from my house. Walk. 5 minute walk from my house. Fine. Run. Because I shouldn't walk. I should run.
Yeah, you should.
I need to do cardio. But
the
interesting thing is that when Peloton announced this share offering of, what was it, like 23 million shares, 24 million shares, it's going to raise about $1 billion, the stock popped 14%.
Yeah.
That is insane, because usually when stock offerings happen, the stock sells off because you're diluting the shares. So that was a very interesting observation. That means people believe that they're going to invest this capital the right way.
Yeah. So, I mean, the stock's trading right around $50 right now, 50, 51, depending on where it's going to be when the show actually airs. November 15th, which is what, a couple days ago from when we're recording this, it bottomed out at $47. Yep. Earlier this year, it was $167, dude. Yeah.
It's like an 80% drawdown or something.
High flying stock. I mean, but, obviously we've seen what happened. So, all right, let me ask you guys this. So they're experiencing slowing demand for their treadmills. That's been the big blow to the stock. Luke, as you mentioned, the stock offering helped it to caused the stock to pop, and maybe that's just because they needed the cash flow, right? Maybe it's almost like the company was going to be in dire trouble if it didn't raise some cash. Yeah. So maybe the investors are like, okay, good. The company, we love the product, we love the management team. now they have the cash flow they need to kind of continue into the next phase. Maybe that's why it happened. But I'm really wondering how much losing the Tread Plus hurt them.
I'm sure it hurt a lot. I think that investors are hoping that they invest that money probably into a product, either that same product or a product similar that can kind of transition them into the new era of Peloton, right?
Right, and it was the more expensive, more industrial grade, if you want to call it that, kind of treadmill, as opposed to the one they're selling right now that's what you put in your basement.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you put in your spare room. That was an industrial kind of treadmill. So with these companies, just real quick, you look at a company like Apple. They sell you $1,000+ phone every single year. The phone dies a year later, and then you go and you buy a new one. So it's technically not recurring revenue, but it's pretty damn recurring if you ask me. Right? How is Peloton different? Because they always talk about the install base. Apple has the install base. You have the phone in your hand, and now they're going to do all this other stuff and make all these ancillary profits off of you. What do you guys see as the big difference between Apple and the iPhone and Peloton and the bike?
Well, I think, Mark, it's really, when you look at the home workout craze, has there ever really been a permanent home workout craze? Because when I was looking up stuff for this show, what always pops into my mind is NordicTrack, right?
Bowflex, Solo Flex, even before that.
I was like 5 years old when that came out. Like Bowflex? I remember this.
Who invited this guy? So, it's like the hardware is always going to become obsolete, right? So the main question that I always say is, one, what is the new piece of equipment that you're going to invent to replace the original piece? And, if you look up NordicTrack, it's still a brand name. They do bikes and treadmills and things like that. They don't do the skiing machine anymore, right? that they originally invented, that basically everyone got in 1994. With Peloton specifically, and Mark, you and I have been talking about this for a while, especially in, mid-lockdown depression. It's like, what they really have here is that subscription base. It is the reoccurring revenue model that everyone loves, everyone wants to get into. But the average investor out there who's just dumping money, or who had been dumping money into Peloton, they weren't looking at that. They're just saying, hey, everyone's buying a bike and look at all this money coming in. If you want to be a long-term investor, I think that is really what this trade is educating everyone out there about. If you want to be a long-term investor, you need a long-term game plan, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think the reason, and it is crazy because when there's a new offering like this, it usually just crushes a stock for a long time. But because they have that base, and my wife is a testament to this. She just loves everything else, not just the bike, but the stretching and the yoga.
Yeah,
and
my wife's been doing that too.
Yeah, so it's an awesome ecosystem, much like Apple, but it's going to be much more service based, I think, than hardware based.
I think the big growth area for them is going to be gyms. I really do. Like them selling their subscription and hardware, and maybe even subscription classes where people will, kind of like, an Uber kind of type deal where they'll hire people to go teach, Peloton classes at these gyms. I think there's all kinds of different routes they can go, but they have to get away from being that only home gym, hardware manufacturer and subscription service, because people are joining gyms now. They're getting out and about. People don't want to be locked in their homes anymore. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah. All right. So a couple observations. Couple things I want to mention after you guys both said your piece. When we talk about this equipment becoming obsolete, the one thing I will say is I don't think a spin bike has changed ever. Like they're always like, it's a very unique kind of piece of equipment. I think they figured it out and it just works, right? I think one of Peloton's biggest issues and why it can't be like an Apple is because its product is too good. The hardware, the actual piece of equipment is built to last 5 to 10 years. The iPhone is built to last
Like
11 months.
Yeah, seriously. I drop my phone every like month, like at least every month. Like it cracks a lot.
I was in New York City last week and my phone died and I didn't know how to get home
You can't.
without an Uber. I had to like actually figure out how to flag down a taxi.
And they're mean, dude.
Yeah.
Taxis are really mean compared to Ubers.
So I figured out that I was always trying to figure out like, how do you know when the taxi's available? Yeah. Apparently when the numbers are lit up, that's when they're, I just kind of found that out. So the equipment's too good. And at some point, like the market has to be saturated, right? I think new equipment could be an answer for them. But at the same point in time, as Luke alluded to, look at what Planet Fitness is doing. Their gym memberships are almost back to where they were in 2019. Mm-hmm. Everyone came back. Mm-hmm. Luke, we talked about the metaverse, right? Yeah. Facebook, Meta, whatever they're called now. I was talking with someone yesterday, and he said Zuckerberg's kind of what he's thinking is like you'll sit at home and you'll hang out with people and you'll never leave your house again.
Sounds boring.
That sound like if that's social networking, that is antisocial. Yeah. It's the most antisocial thing in the world.
Yep. It's not healthy either, man.
No.
That's not healthy at all. To be locked up in your house all day.
Yeah.
Like, and having virtual friends.
Like, right. Yeah, that's not cool. That's like the old imaginary friend, right?
Well, not only is it not cool, it's not good for the long-term human race, in my opinion.
It's not good, man. And so I agree with you. I think people want to get out.
There's a social aspect to going to the gym. Like that's one thing you miss working at home, right? Like I think the workouts, you can still get similar working at home, working out at home. But at the same time, every time I go to a gym, like I meet a new friend, like a guy I can go grab beers with or hang out with. Like that's a fun part of going to the gym and socializing. Like there's this thing about pumping some iron, showing off a little bit in the mirror. Maybe I can't show off as much anymore.
Do you do the kissy face?
Yeah,
in the mirror?
Yeah.
Nice.
What's it called?
Point at yourself, wink.
The Instagram selfies.
The voice you just did from the movie. What's it called?
Zoolander.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Blue Steel or Magnum? Yeah. That's awesome.
But there's just something about it, man. I think people going back to the gym, that's where Peloton needs to go.
You think they need to start working more on selling 20 bikes to a gym?
They need to start selling to businesses.
Yeah.
They instead of going consumer based, sell to businesses like the YMCA. Make a deal with Planet Fitness to fund or give their bikes to the bikes and treadmills to Planet Fitness for the people to use. I mean, there's all kinds of growth areas for them.
There is. So, but then look at how many workout at home options you have today. Mm-hmm. So you've got Peloton. I'm pretty sure Nordic Track has the same exact thing.
Yep.
And then there's like an Equinox. There's like all these different bikes that are competing as far as the bikes go. Beyond that, I bought Fight Camp, which is the big heavy bag, which comes with a subscription and you sign up for boxing classes, right? I own that. There's the Mirror.
Yep.
There's all these different workout at home programs. And I guess if you're just flush with cash, maybe you can have one of each, but most people can't afford to do that.
I mean, why would you work out that many times? Like, why would you work out 5 times a day using 5 different things? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, there's that too.
So I'll tell you. So the whole the Fight Camp thing. So I started taking Muay Thai classes. My son got into kickboxing, so I'm doing the adult version. Almost broke my leg, broke my toe. Pretty sure my hand's broken right now.
And that's why you're Johnny Lawrence. That's it. That's literally why.
And then when I'm out in New York, I have a personal trainer come in and actually do like a 60-minute fight workout. Dude, it is the best workout I've ever had in my entire life.
That's very New York City of you to do.
It is. It's awesome.
Really
it's so cool. I kick everyone out of the yoga room, and it's all for me.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm like, you guys got to go. I got to fight. But it is a fantastic workout. There's something to be said about rotating what you're doing. And look, man, I've been lifting weights for years and years and years. I look more jacked, not to toot my own horn there, but maybe I am. I look more jacked doing like a boxing, kickboxing workout.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy. Like just the blood pumping through your veins and
you're probably using muscles that you wouldn't use just by pumping iron, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, most people only go in there, do the bench press, maybe do some curls, maybe a leg press. Like you know, when you're boxing, man, you're using every single muscle in your body. Like, it's intense. I mean, I used to do karate back in the day. Like I was 2 belts away from black.
Wow.
But I was like 13 years old, so it doesn't really count. But anyway. That was a good workout, man. I mean, like you said, I think there's a lot of areas that Peloton could get into, and there's also a lot of competition though at the same time. So that's what all these things get away when you're picking a stock.
All right, so Peloton around $50 now, cratered at 47. It's high from over the last year, 167 from January. What's next for Peloton before we move on to the next topic? Where do you guys, are they going to, kind of get their stuff together and all of a sudden develop a new product or go after gyms? Does the stock go from 50 to 100? I want just a little feedback from each of you on that.
My initial quick thoughts are, I don't like seeing it up on the offering news. Anytime you dilute shares, you would think the stock should go down. Yeah. So I'd like to see it form a base probably around 45 or 40, and then I'd probably consider picking it up.
Okay. D, you think it goes up or what happens from here?
I think it moves up from here a little bit, but it's really more of an exercise of what are you getting here versus what else can you get in the space. I don't foresee Peloton ripping back up to 150. I think that ship has sailed, and now they're basically just like everyone else. It's. They were the prince of the ball. Is that right?
That's amazing. I've never heard that one, but I'm gonna write that one down.
I don't think that's right. But they were the it stock, right? They had everything fell into place perfectly for them. Is there a new product or a new service that can instantly get them back to there? I don't think so. The gyms is probably the place to go. But then what are you doing? Are you just making, bikes so someone else can teach a spin class? The subscription model doesn't work out for the gyms with like the direct TV Sunday ticket model, right? So if I bought Sunday ticket, it's $350. But if a bar wants to show it, they have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to do that. So, and no one's going to pay thousands of dollars for a Peloton instructor to be on a video screen when you could just pay a regular instructor who will probably do a better job, right?
Yeah, unless it brings
you're
in
back in. Let's go ahead.
Unless it brings in more people, right? Just by advertising your Peloton, that brings in more people to your gym. That's one thing to consider. Right?
Yep. So I would agree with Luke, but I think it's the Peloton branded bikes. I don't know how you get the service into the gym where it works out financially for everyone, but I haven't really thought about it a tremendous amount. But it seems like a live instructor would be a better workout at the gym.
I agree. In Planet Fitness, you can get a membership for $10 a month.
Yeah.
But it's one of those memberships where if you want to cancel because you don't go, you got to drive in and you got to negotiate with the front desk person, right?
Also, if you're pushing up, 300 pounds on a bench press, if you're too loud, they'll kick you out.
Is that for real?
Yeah, they have a siren.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I would not go to Planet Fitness.
I'm
not very loud.
Gym,
I'm not very loud, but when I'm pumping iron, man, if I squeak a little bit,
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to let's talk EVs. We can kind of lump in Elon with this as well, but let's talk Tesla, Rivian. Lucid Motors has been on fire.
Did you see their engine, by the way? Lucid
I have not seen. No.
They posted a picture of their engine. It's 2 feet long. It's literally this big.
Really?
Maybe not 2 feet. Maybe a foot and a half. It's
wow.
super, super small. I couldn't believe it's the engine for electric vehicle. It's really just a battery connected to a little bit of piece of hardware. It's very interesting that whole thing can make a vehicle go 160 miles per hour and go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. It's insane.
Yeah. So the thing with Rivian is obviously they've made no money. Yeah. Okay. They're kind of riding on the Tesla coattails right now, right? Because the market was very patient with Tesla. Tesla had that first mover advantage from actually penetrating the market with their product, but also the first mover advantage as it relates to investor interest, right? And investors on Wall Street were willing to like really just be patient with Tesla and wait for them to make money. They didn't need the money right away.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because Tesla has one thing that no other company will ever have.
What's that?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, got the guys. I've said it. You've said it. Everything he touches turns to gold.
Yeah,
He's
but I mean,
amazing.
that's the reason why people were willing to wait.
Yeah.
They're not willing to wait for, yeah, it's fun to trade.
They've got, Rivian's got Bezos.
Yeah, 20% of Bezos, right? I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point.
Is it GM that has a percentage ownership or Ford? Well, one of the big automakers has a sliver as well.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, Elon Musk was a selling point, but with Rivian, like the market cap, the last time I checked was like 130 billion. I don't know where it's at right now. That was earlier today. I don't think investors are going to be patient with Rivian. Like, it's show me the money. Like, let me see what you're doing. Let me see the numbers. Because Tesla's already actually pulling a profit.
Yep.
Right. And Tesla's technology, as far as I'm concerned, as far as, based on everything I've read, their technology is still the best.
Mm-hmm. It's 5 years ahead of everyone else.
Okay.
Is what I've.
So the only thing holding
together.
Tesla back is their cars aren't as sexy as they could be.
Yep.
Now, I think the Model S is a good-looking car. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I'm supposed to go get one tomorrow or the next day. It's a good-looking car. It's not sexy. That's just my opinion. I mean, maybe you guys think it's a sexy car. It doesn't do anything special for me. It's a little nicer than a Toyota Camry.
I mean, I think the Model S is a nice car, but there's one thing I always come back to, man. When it comes to electric vehicles, I understand, yeah, they're better for the environment from that standpoint. Are they really, though, yet? Because the infrastructure's not built out. We're still using gas and oil to power electric. Probably not yet, but I understand in the future they're going to be better. There's one thing electric vehicles can't do that gas-powered engines can, man.
The noise?
It's the engine, the roar, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I got my Daytona, Charger, Hemi. There's a sound that a Hemi can make that electric vehicles just can't make. And if they replicate
car enthusiasts, so like Ferrari, which that stock has been on fire too.
Yeah.
So Ferrari, they had, for their little hypercar or whatever it's called, supercar, they had the 458 model a few years ago, which was naturally aspirated. And that might have been like 2013 till 18 or so. I don't know when it was. But then the 488, the next gen model, came out. Turbo, not naturally aspirated, and it was unloved by car enthusiasts.
Yeah.
They did not like it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, so I think that it actually ended up raising the value of the 458.
Yeah.
Right? Because people wanted the one that kind of looked new, like the 488, but had the real engine.
Yeah. I mean, Tesla, the Model S, nice car. I'm sure these other cars, Lucid, Rivian, if they actually do make them and produce them, because they really haven't yet, if they do produce them, I'm sure they're going to be nice, decent-looking cars and all. But when the question you need to ask yourself is, when you're spending that kind of money, and without the infrastructure being built out and having to travel to electric gas station to charge your car and not getting the most out of your vehicles, I think especially, I think it's Lucid. They're like saying that they can travel 500 miles on one charge, but I think the car is like a 6-figure car. Like most people aren't going to be able to afford that. Like that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like with that stuff. So
Yep.
I think that's a big kind of talking point with that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I can tell you just my cost benefit analysis on the Model X.
The X, you're looking at the minivan?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. So, it's, so there's two problems. Number one, I like to lease my cars because I can get a new one every 3 years, basically.
Yeah, me too.
I've done the cost analysis on that for all you, financial analysts out there. It's, if you buy a car and you keep it, you need to keep it for at least 8 years to really have any kind of significant savings versus leasing.
Yeah.
And that's if you're not driving unlimited miles. Okay. I don't. That is a negative for Tesla in my case. The second thing is, by the time I'm at the Tesla dealership, taking it out for a spin, coming back like, okay, it's sweet. It's like $118,000, and I'm looking at this thing, and it looks like, it kind of looks like a minivan.
Yeah.
Like the wing doors are sweet.
Did you go
that's
test
cool.
drive it?
I've done this 2 times now.
The X both times?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And what's preventing you from buying the X?
The main thing that's preventing me from buying the X is that it is too expensive versus the alternative that I could get. I can get a really sweet Mercedes for $40,000 less than I can get that Tesla Model X for.
The issue with Mercedes, I don't know if you have this issue in your vehicle, but the issue I've had is the electronics suck.
I agree with that for sure.
Like, dude, sometimes my navigation screen just goes black, and I actually have to put my car in park, shut it off, turn it back on. There's lots of glitches.
That's happened with my mom's car a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. But but it's $40,000 basically.
Yeah.
And the second thing is I live in Cleveland, so they advertise 400 miles per charge, but in the wintertime in Cleveland, it's really more like 290 or something. I'm just making that up. But so those are the things. When they're cheaper and can go farther, like I'm all in. But that's really what's preventing me right now.
Yep. The Porsche Taycan is sexy.
Oh yeah,
that thing is beautiful.
But how much does that thing go for?
More,
like 180 or something.
I think if you want like the really cool one, like the Turbo S, you're looking at least 180 as a starting point. The battery's not as efficient. You might lose 100 miles per charge. I think Tesla might advertise 350. I bet you the Porsche's 225 to 250, right? And then what I haven't heard from any EV maker other than Tesla is self-driving or autonomous. Like Tesla's still big on that, and that's an add-on that you can add. But
that's the coolest feature for me.
That's really cool.
That's the coolest feature. If I had to make a decision between an electric vehicle and a gas-powered vehicle right now, that would be the ultimate thing that would push me over to buy an EV. But the problem is it really doesn't work that great right now yet. That's what I've heard, right, Mark? I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier.
It's imperfect.
Yeah, it's imperfect.
And when your life is in its hands, that creates an issue.
Like, would I sit back and relax and read a book or something, or be on my phone the whole entire time with the current technology where it's at? No, not at all.
Could you have Luke? You like your wings and beers, right?
Yes, I do.
Could you have a couple beers, hop into your Tesla, knowing that you're not over the legal limit or anything, but you are under the influence? Program in your ride home and let it drive you home to make sure you're not.
I'd probably be comfortable with that. Yeah, as long as I'm looking around and have some idea what's going on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain benefits to it still, even though it's imperfect. Yeah, it's still a nice system that I don't think the other automakers they're not including in their EVs, or at least they haven't really mentioned them. Have you guys heard any different?
No, I mean, like we were referring to earlier, Mark. No one's talking about this much anymore, because I truly do think that. Climate change, and with Democrats in office right now, and the whole the whole infrastructure package you're trying to put in the pass right now, I think the focus is on climate change, and that's why they're getting the whole focus off of really what EVs, the technology can do, and they're focusing on this climate change push. Everyone should own an EV, and I think that one of the underlying facts is that the self-driving feature is the coolest thing.
Yeah. So if everyone at some point has to own an EV and they outlaw internal combustion engines, what happens to all those collector cars out there? Seriously, what happens?
Well, the good news is I do know in the current law that they're trying to push for, by 2026 or something, it's all cars sold would have to be EVs, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a car from today, you're still allowed to drive that on the road. Now, could that
eventually
change?
That car will become extinct, right? And they'll have fewer and fewer gas-powered vehicles out there.
Now, could that change where 10 years down the road, they're okay, now you can't drive any gas-powered vehicles? What are you going to do, tow around your classic cars?
We know the government can do that with vaccine and mask mandates. So they can do that.
They could.
It's stupid, and I don't like it, but they could.
At that point, we were talking about alternative assets last week. Maybe you shouldn't be buying collectible cars then.
That's a good point. It's a very illiquid asset. Although, right now, the market for them is crazy.
Yes.
By the way, D, I called Mercedes, or emailed them yesterday, just for the fun of it, and asked them if they'd be interested in buying my vehicle back from me.
Oh, really?
Because they emailed me saying I should get in line to order my next one, and this is right after I was MFing my vehicle for shutting down on me and not working. Right, so I'm like, you guys just want to buy this back? they will, I've only owned it for a year, they will terminate the lease and stroke me a check. So if you wanted that Tesla, you could take yours in, and they'll probably stroke you a big fat check.
Yep.
So
That's interesting.
keep that in mind. The used car market is crazy.
And while you're there, D, you can buy me one too.
All right, no problem.
All right, guys, that wraps up today's show. As always, if you have any questions, hit us up, info@swpconnect.com, and we'll talk to you next week.
The opinions expressed in the podcast are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any investment, legal, financial, or tax strategy. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. Please consult a qualified professional about your individual needs.